So if you ever heard of a plant called Geranium Madernse, or more commonly known as giant geranium, you'd be familiar with this really beautiful lush foliage. I'm always confused why these plants are so hard to find in nurseries, because last year I had one plant and let it bloom. It's a biennial, which means it blooms once every 2 years and then dies. But then look at the number of seedlings that have completely taken over this section of my garden. And one of the great things about Geranium Madernses, other than their resilience to heat and drought and sun and shade, is how easy they are to transplant. I'll show you how. So as when you're transplanting anything, you want to try to do it on a day that's not too hot, not too cold, and where the soil is moist and easy to work with. Now, unlike most plants where you're really concerned with getting as much of the root ball out as possible, Geranium Madernses actually transplant really easily with just a little bit of root. But the thing that you want to make sure that you get all of is the foliage. And the reason that is because if you've ever seen one in full bloom, where it kind of has a halo of flowers on top, it's really heavy, and the foliage actually supports the actual plant itself. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pick one of these seedlings. Again, this is about, I'd say, 6 months old. I'm gonna come underneath the foliage, and I'm gonna dig around the sides, taking care to try to not lose any leaves, and get underneath. And then I hold from the top here, kind of the trunk of the plant, and I'm just going to gently lift it, encouraging the roots to come with me. But again, if I lose a bunch of the root ball, unlike a lot of plants, I'm not going to be super worried about it. This one I'm just going to cut. So here, you can see I have the taproot, very helpful. I have a couple of the feeder roots, but the main thing I got is the foliage that's going to support the rest of the plant. So let's go plant it. So here I am at the planting location for my Geranium Madernse seedling. And generally, when you're transplanting plants, you want to get their roots into the hole with the root pointing down. Now, I have not dug a hole deep enough for this root to not clump up like this when I plant it. Usually that's a concern, because if you have roots that are clumped like this when you plant them, then they're going to tend to grow in circles and not promote a vital growth as the plant gets older. Again, I know these plants really well. I'm not worried about it. I'm going to let them clump a bit. I'm going to get the base of the trunk even with the soil. Right? So again, look, you can see it's such an interesting plant. You can see how the foliage acts as its own support system. So then I take the soil, again, being very careful not to remove any leaves. Cover the roots deeply. I might need some extra soil here. I'll do that after the video's over. I'm not adding any more organic material. It would help, sure, but these are such vigorous growing plants. I'm not concerned about it having enough nutrients. So now the first thing you're going to do when you transplant anything is water it vigorously. I'm going to add more soil and water it more here in a minute. Now, for sure, for the next day or two, these leaves are going to wilt. It's going to look awful. If you do this, you'll think it's dead, but I promise you, this will pop right back up. In a year or two, you'll have the most incredible display of flowers. And then the year after that, you'll have 1,000 babies to decide what you want to do with your Geranium Madernse. Enjoy.